Welcome back to another episode of the Gateway RV Transport Podcast. It's me, your host. I'm just kidding. I just always wanted to say that. I guess technically we're hosts. This is Jordan, and I'm here with
Justin.
In this interview. Actually, it's not really an interview, but today we are going to be talking about something that's near and dear to Justin's heart. Being healthy, because he has a bad heart. So there's kind of a double pun there.
Nice.
But I should probably clarify for the 6 viewers that are listening to this, Justin probably has a healthy heart, but we don't know. We are going to be talking about being healthy, though. So specifically, how to exercise on the road. We all know that the challenges that being in a truck can present physically, and we're going to make a case as to why drivers should be conscious about being healthy on the road. Another podcast, we'll talk specifically about diet, but on this one, we're going to be talking about more of how to exercise and maybe a little bit of why. So let's just jump into it. But most of the ideas, I think, for exercising on the road are pretty much exactly what you'd expect, right? The first thing, and probably the most important thing, is just deciding you want to do it. I don't know how many times you've been on the road, Justin, but when you get to a truck stop, out of the dozens of trucks that are usually there, you might see one guy that's doing something. And that always makes me a little bit happy. I don't know, when you see a guy that's like outside his truck doing burpees or something. But it's probably not as hard as you think until you start to think about it, then it's exactly what you'd expect, if that makes any sense. I think a lot of us don't want to tackle that question mentally because you know that it's actually not that difficult to do physically. It's all about deciding to do it, which is probably true in any aspect of your life of improvement. So the first one is decide you want to do it. So in that decision, I'd say the first probably practical thing to do is to make a plan, which includes time, setting aside time.
Yeah. So I'll just share kind of my experience with this decision because, Jordan and I both tried to, exercise pretty regularly at home. And it used to be when I would take a trip, I just try and bust it back just as fast as I can.
Legally.
And then, yeah, legally, of course. But then I was taking a trip, I think, back from British Columbia. So I dropped and I had decided on that trip, you know what, it's not like I'm going to be taking trips fairly often enough that it can't be that I disregard all of my important habits every time I take a trip. Like, I think it's important that I maintain consistency. If I was only taking a trip every once in a while, maybe it wouldn't have been as important to me. But the fact that I'm going to be doing this isn't just a one-time thing. I want to make sure that I maintain my lifestyle. So I decided, it doesn't matter where I'm at, I'm going to do an hour of exercise. And so I did. And as is usually the case for me, after you work out, even during, I'm really glad that I do it. I actively enjoy it. I enjoy running or lifting weights or whatever. Like, the process is actually really fun for me. But I decided that it doesn't matter if it's fun or if it's ideal, if it's unideal, whatever, it's going to happen. So, like, tangentially, if that's the right word, something that my wife has instituted recently that I really like is she takes our kids, I have a couple of little kids, outside every day regardless of the weather. So if it's going to be a blizzard, she decided, we're going to spend 15, 30 minutes outside, just dressed accordingly too. And so, like, the principle of that is not letting the circumstances, such as weather or where you're at, be in control of what you do. Do it anyway. And, like, that decision isn't complicated. It's a simple decision, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's easy. But it's really not that hard. So it's like the hard part is the mental barrier, and the mental barrier is self-imposed. Like, if you bring the appropriate clothing in accordance with the weather, which you should be doing anyway, because you will be in a bad spot if you don't have a coat and you get stuck out in a blizzard anyway. So it's the same principle. You bring the stuff that you would need, which you should be doing anyway, and then going through something that's maybe initially just there's uncomfortable, but I think you would find that going through an hour of exercise, sometimes maybe that's uncomfortable physically, but it's concentrated down, whereas a lifetime of sedentary living will lead to discomfort all of the time. It's a lot when your knees hurt all of the time and your joints hurt all of the time and things. Some of that is unavoidable and just part of aging, but a lot of that is due to lifestyle. And so you kind of can choose which discomfort you want to face. Do you want to go through the discomfort of choosing to instill this new habit, but it will lead to, you'll feel better. You'll be able to get in and out of your truck without as much difficulty. Like, I don't know if that concept makes sense, but either way, you're going to feel some discomfort. You can either concentrate it down and where it's productive discomfort, or have kind of, does that make sense?
So the idea of choose your hard,
Yeah.
with even in say finances, you can choose your hard, which your two options are: choose the difficulty of being disciplined
Mm-hmm.
and saving, or choose the difficulty of being poor. I mean,
Being broke,
being
yeah.
broke later
Yeah.
on. So one is like a proactive. One is a proactive hard. One is a retroactive hard.
Mm-hmm.
And having the control, having the proactive hard means you're in control of the difficulty. But so one of the things that I said that I thought as you were saying that though is, isn't that, and I'm kind of probing obviously, isn't that easy for you to say because you're already healthy and young and have a good lifestyle? If say I'm a less healthy or older person, which is true, I mean not by a large margin, but less healthy, older, it's going to be harder for me to say that these things that you're talking about are actually doable because I'm not 30 years old.
Yeah. So this would be my counter to that is, if it's important, does it matter? So it's like everybody's situation. Maybe what if it is easier for me, and so it's easy to say, or but it doesn't matter. The point is still true. So regardless of the messenger, if the message is still correct, ought you not to still follow that message? So and in the same way, everybody is going to struggle with it sometimes, whether it's consistency or you get sick and you're getting in and out of habits. But the more you do something, the easier it becomes. And if you just decide, I'm going to do this, every time that you reinforce that decision by continuing to do it, it becomes easier and easier because it becomes more and more of a part of you. It's not just something that you do, but it's the type of person that you are. And if you can change that self-perception of, this is who I am, or who I want to be, and the person that I want to be, this is what they do. This is just what they do. And so I think about that a lot. And I've talked to, my wife about this is, I want my kids to grow up around where it's like, oh yeah, exercise is just something you do, like brushing your teeth or eating or going to bed. It's just, that's part of living. And if you just accept that that's just what you do, it's not as difficult. But if you don't make that mental connection and see yourself as, I'm the type of person who's trying to be healthy, or I am the person that's on the path to being healthy, then
just
you are.
Like that principle of, I want to be a runner is the wrong approach. It's I want to do what runners do. Mm-hmm. So the things that I do are what make me a runner, not that I want to identify as a runner. It's I do the things that runners should do or do.
My a good friend of mine that I served my mission with, he would always say, if you change the way you think of things, the things you think of change. And I think about that in regards to myself. If I view myself as an all-star and try and act accordingly, you would become that. And if you view yourself as someone that's just a loser or something, you begin to act to create a self-fulfilling prophecy of becoming that to a large extent. I'm not somebody that believes in manifesting dreams by just saying them, but you got to do stuff. But a lot of what you do is rooted in your belief system. And if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe that you're this person, you'll never become that person.
Right.
So I don't know if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it does. I'll try to. We want to keep this on topic.
Yeah.
But my tangential story was, I was trying to explain this principle in a real life situation to our younger brother. Not that it was my responsibility to give him a particular life lesson, but we were in a luxury store. I know I've told you this story, but we were in a luxury store in London. So my wife and I were living there at the time, had our first baby. We had some family come and visit us in London. We showed them the sites. One of those sites is the store called Harrods. Look it up. It's just amazing. But there's the most expensive that the world has to offer of basically everything. including a whole floor, like a gymnasium-sized floor of watches, just watches. And I love watches, and have always been a fan, and one day hope to buy one. But these watch the game that we would play is you have 90 seconds, find the most expensive and the cheapest watch that you can find in the whole place. And numbers would usually be the cheapest one you could find was usually around 3,500 pounds or dollars. The most expensive was usually like in the 750,000 range, which is just crazy. But us kind of corn-fed Americans from middle of Indiana going there, you seem out of place, and I really wanted to try to, I don't know, like I've practiced this principle, and I wanted to kind of share that with him too. Let's try something on. Let's put that on. And he just didn't. He felt very uncomfortable. He said, "Well, let's pretend for a second that we belong here, and try on $100,000 watch." And that's all we did. So we just asked if we could try one on, and did. But just the exercise of doing that, of like trying to put yourself in a position or a frame of mind of being, you know what I'm saying? Being where you want to be, or putting yourself in a frame of mind that maybe not what you're comfortable with, but kind of understanding that you can, I don't know, be confident, do what you want to do, make the changes that you want to make, and feel like you're worthy of a good life. Not that an expensive watch is indicative of a good life, but the principle being, do and be what you want.
Can I add like two principles in connection with that? The first is just as a side story. Shortly after I got married, my wife and I used to like do open house tours. Like when people were selling houses, they do an open house, and we toured this like $500,000 home, and I felt very out of place. I think I saw a dude with a monocle checking out the house, and there was like a urinal in the bathroom, and it was a really fancy house in Fort Wayne. And I felt like they can tell I don't belong here. You know, I was like 22 years old, and I am in my image of myself as I'm just this hick that doesn't belong here. And so, like, I get that. It's also, I think one of the things talking about fitness is pretty much everybody, I think, at least the majority of people, the first few times that they go to a gym, they feel like everybody's, like, they feel super out of place, like, I don't belong here. They feel like people are watching you. One of the things that, you know, I've been an on and off gym goer for many years now. People don't notice you. Or if they do, they're rooting for you. Like, people are not going there, or they're just as new gym goers are just as self-conscious as everybody else. So, like, there's that fear of, I don't know, this weird social, like, you're in a new environment. I don't really, that's like 95% internal. Maybe every once in a while there's some jerk who's, I don't think I've ever encountered that. And you know, I've been going to the gym off and on since I was like 15. So, I don't know. That's just something I think everybody would experience. Same thing like at the truck stop. I remember thinking this. I talked to one of our drivers, Charles, about this, about how I was trying to work out, but I was like, at this truck stop, there's all these trucks, and I didn't want to be out there running laps, and I felt like, you know, all of the trucks were like staring at you because the way, you know, when you're backing in, all these semis are parked to where it's, you know, if people are sitting in their seats, everybody is just on display there. And he had said something like, you got to get past that. It's like, first of all, who cares what these people that you're never going to talk to or ever see again, what they think? And even if they did, you think that they're going to be judging you for doing something good? It's like the only reason that people would do that is, and not that he said this, but this is my connection, is if they're just projecting their own problems onto you because you're doing something that's a good thing to do. It's not like you're doing it to show off, you're doing it for yourself. And then, just as another side story, he says, Charles was telling me, I've seen guys pull out a bench, barbell, and like rack and do bench presses in a truck stop parking lot. So it's like, and you think people are looking at that guy going, what a poser, no, it's like people are, if the people that are thinking that are not people whose opinions I care about. And I think you just got to get past that mental, and most people are like, good for him, maybe I should do something like that. Or most people don't, they notice it, don't care, because they're living their own lives, they got their own problems. Anyway.
Yeah. So how do you do that? Well, so in a practical sense, there's a few really easy ideas. One is body weight exercises or calisthenics, which is stuff you don't need anything else for. Things such as push-ups, crunches, lunges, planks, walking, running, anything that you can just do with your body weight. And sometimes, in my opinion, that's harder. I don't know. I have a harder time doing that than actually using something, but starting there. So somebody that hasn't gone to the gym or exercised and they're just, you know what, I'm reaching a point where I need to do something. I need to make a change, but I've never done this before. What would you suggest? What would be some ideas on how to get started?
Walking would be the first one. And that's where adjust to where you're at. So do what you can. I would think walking is an easy place to start. If that's too easy for you, jogging. If that's too easy, running. Mm-hmm. And then, all the stuff that you were mentioning, which you could do a whole list of stuff, and there's an ample, burpees, push-ups, like tricep dips on all that stuff that's really easy to do.
On your wonder board. And if you can't do a push-up, do an assisted push-up.
Yeah.
If you can't do 10, do 2. Mm-hmm. And same thing with lunges. And you know what? That's crazy. It's just amazing. This thing, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's called the internet. Mm-hmm. And you can basically get 70 billion ideas in a fraction of a second of what you can do.
Yeah.
So you want to, let's see. And you can kind of do them anywhere. That's the other thing is you can do that truck stop, rest stop. Just about anywhere. You want to up it a level, get some resistance bands, portable, light. They're not going to take up any space really in your truck. So you might not have space for a bench and a barbell, but you can have space. I guarantee you've got space for resistance bands. When it comes to walking, set yourself a goal, I would say. Not just I'm going to park a little further. I mean, that's somewhere to start, park a little further from the truck stop, but make a specific goal. And in my experience, it's easier for me to do it at the beginning of the day than the end of the day. At the end of the day, even when I have been going to the gym, every day for months and months, when I'm in the truck, on the road, when I finish the day, the last thing I want to do is anything. So starting my day, I know at the beginning of the day you just want to get on the road and get going. But you do have to plan ahead and make a decision of when. In my view, it's easier to do it first thing. Ideally, you'd kind of be doing a little bit at the beginning and the end. But anyway, you want to figure out what works for you. Some people like driving at night. I can't do it over. I'm not that kind of a person. I can wake up real early and get started, but I don't start it. We have some guys that start at like 10 p.m. and they drive till 5 a.m. I can't do that. Interval training. So you want to step it up a little notch. Start focusing on your heart rate. Do stuff that gets your heart pumping. And that's also good at the beginning of the day for energy. I think it's a lot easier to feel tired if your heart rate has hardly ever gone up more than your resting heart rate. And then something that anybody can do is stretching. I think it's a good way to focus on your body's health. Just stretch. If you don't know what to specifically do, just look it up and see what looks kind of comfortable for you and your circumstances. There's all kinds of apps and videos and YouTube channels and podcasts. Speaking of which, one of the things that I thought of was surround yourself by things that you feel like will encourage you. So what are you listening to in the truck? Maybe introduce in your regular rota of listening things of a podcast about health or about
Jocko.
It's probably one of the best ones out there, right? And I think there are podcasts specifically for drivers about being healthy. So you can find a podcast about anything or listen to a YouTube video. Don't watch it, but listen, or
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, surround yourself by things that help motivate you. Books, audio books. I didn't say books on tape, but audio books. And then another one is set realistic goals. For me, when I in this last so a little over a year ago, starting to try to get back into the gym consistently, one of the things that I did that I felt like was really helpful was I made the decision not to do anything that I didn't want to do, which sounds kind of, I don't know, doesn't make sense, or maybe it makes too much sense. In that, for example, I often, throughout history of my life, when I was going to the gym, I felt like I had to do cardio, a specific type of cardio. I don't enjoy cardio. So on days where I was supposed to do cardio, I was less likely to go because I knew that was the day that I was doing something I didn't want to do. This time around, I just didn't do those things. Same thing with certain lifts. So when I'm at the gym, I hate doing like squats and like any like clean and jerk, any of that kind of stuff where it's kind of intimidating, especially leg stuff. I just didn't enjoy doing. So I made the decision I'm not going to do those things, and I'm only going to focus. There are certain lifts that I liked doing, and so I just did the things that I enjoyed. And over time, as the habit was built, I reintroduced some of those things that I didn't really like, and I found out that I was worried about doing them more than I should have, because nobody wants to go to the gym and do a squat where you can only do the bar, for example, and you're embarrassed or you feel like you're not making any progress.
I have to have one that not just less than the bar negative weights where it like helps pull you back up.
They do make those.
Probably.
But once the habit has been established and you're seeing progress and you're starting to feel momentum, it's easier to do some of those harder things. But this is my view, you might disagree, and the people out there might disagree. Don't do those things that are going to make it harder for you to go. Do the things that are going to make it easier for you to go. And the same thing is true here. If there's do something and try to enjoy it. Pick things that help you enjoy it. That way, when the time comes where you've committed to yourself to do it, you're looking forward to it and not like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just one of the things that's helped me on this is.
Can I piggyback on that idea? Yeah. So I think like physical muscles, the mental strength, it's something you train. So you start out easy and you build up and build up and build up, right? So like I hated doing squats. I don't, not that I enjoy them, but I've gotten to the point now I did squats today, and I don't hate them. I've done them long enough now. Like I like when I'm done, like I did it. You know what I'm saying? So like I really enjoy lifting weights. You wouldn't tell from looking at me. I'm a pretty thin fella. And I'm okay with that. Anyway, the point is, yeah, like make it enjoyable and then slowly amping it up. Because I think one of the tendencies is that New Year's resolution, like cliche of you go crazy hard, you work out for 2 hours on January 1st, mm-hmm. and then you're burnt out and you never work out the rest of the year, right? Mm-hmm. Like Michael Scott with his goal of flossing he 12:01 January 1st, flossed, bled like crazy, mission accomplished, so anyway. But yeah, so like slowly leaning into it, having fun. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times things that are fun for me are things that I'm good at, and you get good at things. Confidence comes from competence. So competence comes from repetition. So some things, they become more fun as you get better. Mm-hmm. Playing guitar is a lot more fun when you know how to do some stuff. Playing basketball is more fun when you're decent at it and you can actually make some shots. In order to make the shots, though, you have to. So it's this balance, and I think physical fitness is a really good example of this principle that applies to so many aspects of life. It's a balance of pushing yourself and like recognizing when to pump the brakes and enjoy it. So like there's this balance, and everybody's got to kind of find what works for them, and the only way to do that is you kind of have to do some experimenting for yourself. You know what works for you. Some people, that David Goggins, you can do this, like somebody screaming in your face. Some people really that respond to that. Some people, like me, I don't really respond to that type of thing. You see what I'm saying? So you have to kind of find the stimulus that works for you.
Yeah. Well, that was all of my ideas that I had on here. The biggest one being do kind of have a self-assessment, figure out what works for you and your schedule and your current health circumstance, and do something. Commit to yourself, make it fun, and make progress. And what it is that you're doing is probably less important than trying to figure out if I need to, do inclined bench or inclined push-ups and how many burpees. And I think the most important thing is doing something. I really do think that the mental battle is harder than the physical one. Anything else you need?
Yeah, I'll just blast through my other little bullet points. But mindset over method, that's something that I really like. Kind of the same thing that you're going over. It's getting in the right mindset matters a lot more than the little minutia details. Although those things, depending on where you're at in your journey, some of those things might matter to you, but it depends where you're at. I really like stopping and doing cool hikes wherever you're at. So that's one way you're getting multiple benefits. So when I dropped in Redding, I drove over to the Redwoods. When I dropped in Northern California, I forget where, went over to the Redwoods. When I dropped in Phoenix, I went over to this like state park, cactuses everywhere. It was awesome. So I got to do my hike, spend time outside, kind of stretch out, enjoy the place that I'm at that I may never get to see again. And so I think it's worth it.
On that one of the things that I think is fun to collect are other people's places.
Yeah.
So if you have anybody listening to this have some of those places in mind of where that you found cool hikes or cool things to see, we love to hear about that kind of stuff. So send them our way. And
maybe we'll talk about this another time, but I kind of have some of those because I've done I don't know how many trips over the last few years, 75 maybe.
Yeah, we should do
and
one.
There's a lot of places that I've stopped that I think other people should stop here.
Yeah. Yes.
So a couple other things. Planet Fitness, other gyms, guest pass at gyms. I went to the Orem Rec Center in Utah. It was like $3 for a guest pass. Nicest gym I've ever been to. Crazy nice. I remember working out on the beach in California, also a really cool spot, grabbing rocks, and that felt like kind of cool, like a Rocky montage. You're grabbing logs and rocks and running around or doing whatever, and it's like that was fun for me. Gulfport, Mississippi, me and my Uncle Kim dropped in Gulfport, ran over to the beach. I was the only person there. It was like 80 degrees outside, and I just went swimming. And I'm not a particularly good swimmer, so it's very difficult for me as far as cardio. That's a good way to get it done. Same thing with the Florida beach. I dropped in Ponchatoula, Louisiana. A lot of people go there. I drove over to the beach, only person there. I went swimming. It was like 9 o'clock at night. It was dark outside. It was really warm. It was awesome. Superior, Montana. I stopped in Superior, went for this hike there that was awesome. Snoqualmie Pass in Washington. On my way to Vancouver, stopped there, and on the way back, just did a hike. Beautiful, tons of fun, right off the road. It's not going to detour you at all, and you get to enjoy an amazing place. And you can make the hike as rigorous as you want it to be, or as laid back, grandma can do it with you type hike. So anyway, make it convenient, make it fun. Consistency is more important than greatness as far as like isolated incidents. Anyway, there's a whole lot of other minutiae I could get into. I think it's fun. I think it's a lot of fun stopping, hiking, doing push-ups. And if it's not fun for you, figure out what is and recognize that it will become fun if you keep it up. Mm-hmm. I think. So
now, walk me through this genius idea that you had about your pilot.
Oh, yeah. My pilot program. All right. My last trip down to Oklahoma City or Dallas, I can't remember, one of those, there was a Planet Fitness. We're at 29 minutes. Do you think that's all right?
That's all right, yeah.
Okay. There's a Planet Fitness across the street from like a TA or a pilot or a Flying J or something. And I remember thinking, because I was trying to figure out what I was going to do to do my 1 hour of daily exercise. And I'm sure a lot of people have had this idea, but it's like, why doesn't Planet Fitness team up with Pilot and have a little gym that they could, there's just a countless number of ways that you could integrate these two things together, right? So like buy a certain amount of fuel, get a free gym pass, get a gym membership, get a fuel discount, and you can kind of pair it. And, as far as, big companies like Pilot often have these initiatives of, trying to make the world a better place. So like a health initiative, like helping. So like, for example, I don't remember where I heard this. I think it was in Peter Attia's book, Outlive, which I recommend. It's a really good one. It's about increasing the longevity of your life, not just living longer, but living healthier longer. Really good book, pretty heavy on the science behind it all. But I think it was there. He said 70% of Americans are considered overweight, so not just above normal, because if most people are above normal, but beyond a weight that is considered healthy. So like excessive body fat, essentially, mostly. And I don't remember where I'd heard this, but it's something, and I might be butchering the statistic, but truck drivers in particular are heavier than the average person. So the average person is already overweight. Truck drivers in general are more overweight. And so this is a pretty common thing. So it makes sense why. It's a hard job to get out. It's a sedentary job, like a desk job. You're sitting all day. And anyway, so there clearly are plenty of truck drivers out there who are overweight and don't want to be, or probably don't have the physical health that they want to, and if Pilot had a convenient solution to that, they'd be helping the industry, as well as it could be a potential revenue stream for them, having a partnership with the gym. So anyway, this was kind of my thought process as I was driving on this last trip like 2 weekends ago. And so the program, the pilot program. So I was like, okay, obviously like a pilot wouldn't want to just dump a bunch of money into this unless they knew it would work. It's like, well, why don't they just do this? Get 10 treadmills, put a treadmill in a driver lounge in 10 different locations across the country, free in the driver lounge while people are waiting for their showers, and just monitor how much it's used over the course of a couple of months. And if it's used fairly often, then you know that there's a market out there. There's people who want to, they just don't have the access. And I obviously haven't been in this game as long as so many people, but I have never seen anything like that at a truck stop. I've seen a lot of different things at truck stops, where they partner with different people and they have a lot of different things. But I haven't really seen like a gym, a little mini gym or a treadmill or something like that. So I don't think that it's really out there, which means either they don't believe it would work, major truck stop chains, or they've tried it and it didn't work, which I'm kind of skeptical that that's true. And even if they had tried it in the past, the culture is changing in the last 20 years. Maybe they tried it 20 years ago. Because of one of the pros of the internet is people have more access to this information. There's a culture around fitness that I think is in really, like, more and more people are having access to this idea that this could be me. Like, this isn't just for this certain archetype of a person, but this is me. And so I think that it would be something that people would want. It's just hard. So, like, one of the blessings and curses of living in the modern era is if things aren't convenient, we don't do it. We do things based on convenience. People eat food that's convenient. Part of the reason, fast food is so convenient. That's why people will use it. Not because it's healthy. You think like ordering a what's a McBurger? Big Mac. I don't eat McDonald's anymore. It's on my banned list, except for the McGriddle, which is
the least healthy thing that they have.
Guilty pleasure or whatever. But make it convenient. If you make things convenient, I think people would rise to it. I think so. Like, I told this idea to a friend of mine, and he's saying, I don't think people would do it. And he may be right. That's why you would do the pilot program to test it. But I also think people, and this is just my personal philosophy on people, and I really got this ingrained in me on my 2-year mission in Montana. But people want to be good. I worked with a lot of people on meth. They didn't want to be on meth. Like, I worked with people that had been drug addicts and grew up with their parents being drug addicts. It's not like they choose that consciously. People fall into a state of being that they don't want to be in, not because they choose that 98% of the time or whatever, but because it's the difficult life circumstances that really kind of push them into that, but they don't want to. And given the opportunity, I think that most people will rise to be the people that they want to be if they just had the belief that they could be that and the resources to accomplish it. So that philosophy kind of applied in this idea would be that I think people would do it and test my theory, pilot, and do the pilot program, put a couple of treadmills in your driver lounge, lose weight while you wait for your shower, right? And see if it works. And then if it does, maybe you expand the idea. And maybe it's you put in $1 and you get an hour of treadmill time, or like a vending machine, or maybe it's a little mini gym that you just constantly grow based on usage.
But don't gyms get their money from memberships that aren't used?
Some of them, I think. So, like Planet Fitness, I'd heard this somewhere. I don't remember. This is, again, probably me making crap up. But that Planet Fitness makes most of its money off of gym memberships that nobody uses. Because Planet Fitness is really cheap. And so I highly recommend. Planet Fitness is a pretty good gym for a truck driver.
Showers,
yeah.
Parking.
Reggie was telling us that's what he did. And it's like, genius. That's a great idea. I used Planet Fitness when I was renovating my bathroom. I would just go in and use the shower because I didn't have a shower in my house for like a year, which shows you how fast I renovate things. But yeah, I think even if they do, it's not a losing situation for Pilot if people don't use the gym if they still pay for it.
They should try it if nothing else. I wonder if in their calculus it's this X amount of square footage. What's the most money I can make from X amount of square footage?
Might as well put a slot machine in there because I make more money.
Or something.
Which is true, but it's like if you have a mission, that's where this is where it's tough. And and this is my bias against big corporations, and this is why I like small business, such as Gateway RV Transport, where all of your dreams come true. But is if you believe in a mission, not just the bottom line, but you can still have a bottom line and be cognizant of that. Obviously, it still matters. Like businesses aren't designed to just dump money somewhere. But would it not be better, even if you made less of a margin a slot machine or a treadmill. Let's just use that as an example. Maybe you make more money on the slot machine, but are you making the world better? No, you're making it worse because you're feeding into this culture of addiction and gambling. And no, I'm not trying to hate on everybody that gambles, but I don't think that it enriches your life. I think it probably makes most people's life worse. And I've heard before, and I think this is fairly accurate. Lottery tickets are a tax on poor people because it's a false promise. I mean, I'm not going to give my whole philosophy on that, but I think as if you believe in bettering the human family, fitness does so much for mental health, like social health. Like when you feel better mentally, when you feel good physically, you feel better mentally. When you feel better mentally, you treat other people better, including your family. And so if you want to be a better father, a better brother, a better whatever, a lot of that could be a quick way to really improve that is to get in shape, whatever that means for you. But you'll feel so much better. And so like if you really have a mission to make the world better, because that's like Gateway, there's a lot of things that we could do to make more money, but it's in contrast to our mission. And part of my mission is I want to help people's lives. I like that. It's more rewarding for me. And surely the people running these big corporations, so many of them want to leave that kind of impact. And maybe this is a stupid little idea, but the concept isn't. The concept of thinking of ways to help truck drivers be better physically so they can be better with their families, so that they can be better in every aspect of their life, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, all of it. And I think that's my...
Yeah. Well, and I hope you're right. I hope people that are in decision-making positions in influential companies throughout the world have a positive approach on humanity progress. I think there's a lot of pressures in those levels to not care, and in some instances, I know it's even celebrated the apathy of I don't know. Probably not the right rabbit hole to go down for this particular one.
Yeah,
but I hope so, and I do think that there are people that do care and try, and in my view, I think it would be nice if those people existed or made, but I don't have any control of that. But I do have control over what I'm going to do. So I think I love the idea of the pilot program, and it sounds cool, and it would be fun. Whether they do or don't, I need to make the decision that I want to be the better version of myself. And that better version of myself includes active momentum physically. I'm reading a book right now about alternative versions of your life. And if you had the ability to pick where you would dream that you wanted to be and then experiment in that life, what would be the ideal life that you would choose? And I have a hard time believing that anybody I feel like most people wouldn't consciously choose their premium life to be one of poor physical health. I think most people's premium, like if they're, hey, throw it, what would it be that just throw it out there? What would be your dream situation? I think most of us want to have all of those things: a good life, strong family connections, purposeful work. And I think it's hard for people to feel like they can achieve that. But this is just like one of the little brushstrokes on the canvas of your life that makes a difference, is making the decision to be a little bit healthier. And you have, I don't think we have one driver here that doesn't have the ability to make a change, a positive change, if they wanted to. Because I also don't think that there's really one person that has the ability to be conscious that can. You know what I mean?
So I'm picturing somebody driving down the road. They got a pack of Oreos open. They're stuffing them in, and they're listening to this, and it's like slapping it out of your hand, saying, "Go work out." But to a certain extent, put down the Oreos and
yeah. But I mean, be practical. Enjoy your life. Some people love Oreos. I'm not gonna lie. This morning I bought a donut, and
we put Oreos in trailers quite often. In fact, yesterday I was packing in Oreos with. So have your Oreo, but go walk 15 minutes too. There, maybe that's the balance.
I think I've actually quoted this in our podcast, but a famous model said, eat a cheeseburger to stay sane, or eat healthy to. Now I had it in my mind, but
I get the
eat
concept.
Salad to stay healthy, eat a cheeseburger to stay sane.
Yeah, that's
Something
a good one.
Like that.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
And we're going to continue to put Oreos and stuff in trailers on occasion. That's something. I'm not hating on Oreos.
Podcast out shortly that is about how to be healthier with what you eat. But anyway, we love feedback. This is hopefully you can gauge a sense of passion, especially Justin's passion about this. Making the world a better place. I don't really care, but that's good.
Burn it all down.
No, I jest. But we do care about our footprint, our life's footprint here in Gateways, and hopefully our drivers who this podcast is intended for get a sense of that and get something positive. Whether you've wasted 40 minutes or not, I don't know. You can let us know if this is a waste of time. Either way, it's good for me.
Yeah.
If nobody else listens to this, I feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
So,
and just my one other principle I would just say is probably for most people, guilt is not a good motivator, but that is like what people self-impose for working out, and that doesn't usually succeed. I think thinking about the benefits and the positives, and that's part of also just my worldview. I like to think that I'm kind of an optimist and maybe even a little bit naive about it all, but I think that that's a lot more motivating for me. When I picture like my kids, what kind of father do I want them to see in me? That motivates me way more than like, I know I shouldn't be just doing, and I felt the same thing when I was, as a missionary. We worked with a lot of people that were trying to quit smoking. Everybody knows that smoking is not good for you. Like everybody does. So guilt clearly doesn't work. But what did is when people caught a vision for what they could be, and even that didn't work most of the time because it's really, really difficult to quit smoking, right? But anyway, guilt, don't feel guilty, feel empowered. Whatever you need to do that, do that.
Amen. Well, thank you for sticking with us, and catch you on the next one.